OK， 我哋開始上 class 啦，So let's take a look So 我哋而家上緊嘅 History of Buddhism 我睇下先咩 page Is we are in the page let's see
110
110 Okay. So in 110let's take a look.我哋而家開始係咪就係 the nature of Mahayana and its attitude to the early school 啦，即係上一拜我哋 stop 喺呢度啦，and then this one the nature of Mahayana and its early school basically 就係喺呢個 chapter I think let me see first we are in the 呢個係 page nature of Mahayana。睇下先OK 我哋係喺teaching history and practice 呢度啦 ，introduction to the Buddhism 我哋睇下先So basically the teaching chapter 10.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4, OK yes 喺 Chapter 4呢度啦So basically it's in the rise of Mahayana 咁我哋 in the previous lesson 係咪 rise of Mahayana we talk about the nature of the Mahayana and its attitude to the early school啦So at the first one OK so there is a movement was called Bodhisattva Yana 我哋講嘅菩薩道啦咁樣啦and then later on 係咪呢個係咪 is contradiction to the Sravakayana and Pratyekayana 咁樣and then basically they didn't accept the new sutra I mean for this the new movement and they stress the superiority of the Bodhisattva Yana and then they regards this I mean the Pratyekayana and Sravakayana as the inferior vehicle or Hinayana class basically this phenomena are still common and happening now So basically nowadays sometimes people we will call I mean nowadays the Theravada as Hinayana but basically some people may think the Hinayana is humiliation nowadays usually we call them as Theravada but I mean if dated back to the 1,000 years ago it really happened that in Kandara that they called it as an inferior vehicle and the Bodhisattva have a special features which is compassionate motivation wisdom and also have a superior goal which is omniscience Buddhahood so class basically this type of teaching I mean it's very obvious in the Mahayana Sutra 你哋仲記得冇舊班我哋讀大智度論係咪喺 the way to Buddhahood so basically Nagarjuna 係講in order to become a Buddhahood so there must be 3 important features number 1 must be have a very strong compassionate second must be having number 1 is compassionate second must be having the wisdom the third one must be having the vow so this is we call it the 3 most important elements okay so now we go to the new section okay prior to its translation Elena can you please read the passage please
Prior to its first translation into Chinese in 286 CE the sutra known as the Satta Dhamma Pundarika or the Lotus of the True Dhamma Lotus for short, develop a perspective which, while hostile to the Hinayana, sought to portray it as incorporated in and completed by the Mahayana. Chapter 2 of the Sutra achieves this accommodation by what was to become central Mahayana concept, and that of Upaya Kausaya. Skill, Kausaya, it means Upaya, or skillful means, This built on the old ideas of the Buddha's adapt teaching methods, in which he adapted the contents of his teaching to the temperament and level of understanding of his audience. This was by simple selecting his specific teaching from harmonious body of teachings. Now he was seen as having given different levels of teaching which might actually appear as conflicting. For the higher level required the undoing of certain oversimplified lessons of the lower level, while the Buddha's ultimate message was that all can become omniscient Buddhas. This would have been too unbelievable and confusing to give as a preliminary teaching. For the ignorant with low dispositions, he therefore begins by teaching on the four true realities for the spiritually ennobled, setting out the goal as attaining nirvana by becoming an arahat. The arahat is seen as still having a subtle pride and as lacking in compassion in his hope of escaping the round of rebirth, thus leaving enlightened beings to fend for themselves. For those who were prepared to listen further, the Buddha then teaches the true nature of nirvana is attained at Buddhahood, and that all can attain this, even the arahats, who currently think that they have already reached the goal. The Buddha has just one vehicle, Ekayana, the all-inclusive Buddha vehicle, but he uses his skillful means to show this by means of three: the vehicle of discipline, solitary Buddha, and Bodhisattva. He holds out to people whichever of them corresponds to their inclination and aspiration. But once he has got them to develop spiritually, he gives them all the Supreme Buddha vehicle. As the Bodhisattva path leads to Buddhahood, it seems hard to differentiate the Bodhisattva and the Buddha vehicles. Not all Mahayana Sutra follow this. One vehicle perspective, indeed most, such as the Ugra Paripracha, follow a third vehicle, Triyana, one in which arahats do not develop further. Others, such as the Sifu, forget about the word, Prajna Paramita, emphasize the importance of Bodhisattva, not falling back so as to seek the lesser goal of arahatship.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, 點解I put the wrong link for the wrong lesson. Hey, Mr. Leong, Elena, Sally, you don't realize. Actually, today's supposed to be history of Buddhism, but I put Abhidhamma. You don't discover there's a mistake. Mr. Leong, Elena, Sally. On the mic, Elena.
I use the introduction to history of Buddhism link to log in.
No. I mean, actually, I put
You
it wrong.
have two screens.
No. Actually, I mean, I put see you tomorrow is in Abhidhamma, remember?
Yeah.
Why you don't tell me that? Oh, actually, it's a wrong message. Today's supposed to be history of Buddhism.
It's okay, Sifu. Whether you like to teach Abhidhamma or history of Buddhism, you still be sitting here.
But anyway, today we
That's good.
successfully fishing two people already. One is a CJ and one is a Kong Kok Hong. They come because I put the wrong, so lucky we got two new people. At least they come have a try. Okay, well anyway, hey. Okay, so I maybe just a little bit in introduction tell you what is happening here. Actually, CJ asked whether today is an old class or new class. Of course, it's a very old class. Yeah, very old class. Okay. Well, basically, actually, we are attending this introduction to Buddhism. Basically, involve history and also involve some. This is the book we are going through. We have go through, I think, quite a number of years already. Okay. So, introduction to Buddhism, basically now, chapter 1 is the Buddha and his Indian context. Second is the early Buddhist teaching, rebirth and karma. And the third one is the early Buddhist teaching, the four true reality for the spiritual. And then today, now we are in the early development in Buddhism. We talk about the rise of Mahayana, meaning to say we have gone through all regards the Abhidhamma, we have gone through, and the Nikaya all have gone through. Now we talk about how did the Mahayana arising now. Okay, so we try to digest what Elena have gone through. Elena 你講得真係好啊 ，no matter what lesson 啊，都係一樣嗰幾個人啫。Okay, finish highlighting.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, finish. Okay. 國空如果你方便 if you convenience 國空 please on the screen convenience for for interaction So class, let's take a look. Let's see first okay share the little book later on okay So let me start our class. Actually, class, let's take a look. Or you are driving, so it might be dangerous. If you're driving, never mind, just on the screen. Off the screen. Okay, so when we start to talk about the Mahayana, So now we come to a very important sutra, which is called it as Saddharma Pundarika. Class Saddharma Pundarika is the Fa Hua Jing. Maybe you have to try to learn a little bit Chinese because this is so common. Fa Hua Jing. Okay. PFJ. Fa Hua Jing. Okay, class, according to the history of Buddhism, I think according to the archaeologically proof, basically Fa Hua Jing is the oldest Sanskrit text. You can say it's the oldest Sanskrit text we discover in Kandara. Actually, I'm teaching this subject now in every Sunday, twice a month. Fa Hua Jing, which is so important in Mahayana, the reason is because it's emphasized that only one vehicle only. Okay, and then archaeologically proof that it can date it back to about 3rd century. They discovered it in the Kandara, somewhere in Pakistan. A very ancient text, which is older than the Pali text in Sri Lanka. It's considered the most ancient one. Let's take a look. So this is the, usually if you really want to know a little bit archaeologically, we will write Gilgit manuscript. Because it is discovered in Gilgit, a place we call it as a Gilgit. Gilgit manuscript. And then we are able to see is the Dharma Flower Sutra here, the Gilgit manuscript. Oldest manuscript collections. Let's take a look. So this is the one. This is the one. Dharma Flower Sutra is this, I think. Let's see first. Yes. The Gilgit manuscript surviving in Pakistan and India. Let me check. This is the Dharma Flower. Gilgit Lotus Sutra. So this is the one most famous. If one day you're able to travel to Pakistan, you should go to have a look, which is the oldest manuscript so far, according to the history. Then, what is the teaching about? Well, basically, it's about this. Is one vehicle only. The core center is in the chapter number 2. Chapter number 2, it mentioned regards what it's mentioned regards the upaya. What does mean upaya? Meaning to say that for Buddha, okay, according to Dharma Flower Sutra, Buddhahood is the only ultimate truth only. So everybody should try to become the Buddha. But since everybody have a different capacity, so Buddha tried to correct that. He said, if Buddha is too difficult for you, you can try to become the Arahant, or you can become the Pratyeka Buddha. Okay? So you see, so this is how, the Shakyamuni, this is the point in the Dharma Flower Sutra. But anyway, nowadays, basically we don't take it as a Dharma Flower Sutra is not the only one sutra we can choose. Nowadays, if we study the Nikaya, we study Abhidhamma, mostly people are still believe that for being Arahant is still an ultimate truth. Okay, but anyway, Dharma Flower Sutra have a strong influence to the Chinese Buddhism. Basically, most of the Chinese, they will think about that, Buddhahood is the only way. But since the path is too difficult, so since they come across the Pure Land, so they will use to opt for the Pure Land, and from Pure Land, they reach the Pure Land, and they start the cultivation until they go to the certain level, which they would go start ballet. Then they reach to the stages which will not retrogress. Then they come back again to further for the Buddhahood. So this is the teaching which is very common in Mahayana Buddhism, especially in China. Whereas in Malaysia, we already mixture with the China Buddhism, the Indian Buddhism, the Thailand Buddhism, the Myanmar Buddhism, and also the Tibetan. So we come up with the different things already. Okay, but anyway, from here, we start to understand that this is the difference here. So let's take a look. You see, now according here, I say, he adapt the content of the teaching to the temporal and level of an understanding of his audience. Meaning to say that since we take a different audience, so we have a three vehicle provide for them. So this is the chapter 2 in the Dharma Flower Sutra. I think Elena, you sign up for the course of the Dharma Flower Sutra, am I right, Elena? You didn't, Luckily you didn't. Because many people sign in, then disappeared already. Because it's very long.
Yeah, I know it's very long. I dare not sign in is because I couldn't find the English version. If I can find the version, then I'll join. Like last time, the Army Torjing, I got the English version, I can join.
Yeah, you can
Without
join.
the English version, very tough. Very.
Actually, Dharma Flower Sutra, if I try to compare with all the sutra I teach, I thought basically, if you compare with the 地藏经 大悲咒 all this, Dharma Flower Sutra contain a lot of Abhidhamma. Especially, we talk about the terminology involved for the cultivation. So a lot of, you're able to see the kasina in the Dharma Flower Sutra. You're able to see anicca, dukkha, anatta, sunyata. All this can be discovered in Dharma Flower Sutra. So rich, so many. Whereas in 地藏经 地藏经 大悲咒 you don't discover a lot regarding this type of terminology, which emphasize that for the cultivation. Okay, next, what else the features can we have a look at? Okay, for example, here, see first. Okay, then you say, Buddha ultimate message was that all can become omniscient Buddha. This is according to the Dharma Flower Sutra. Okay, and then you see here, you say, Nirvana by becoming an Arahant. You say the Arahant is seen as still having a subtle pride and lacking in compassion. So remember, once, okay, if you go through the Nikaya and Abhidhamma, basically the difference between the Buddha and the Arahant, not very much. But since Mahayana started, especially the Sutra, we discover from the 1st century, we notice that the difference between the Arahant and Buddha is getting big and big. And since the difference is so big, so they say that for being the Hinayana, the Arahant, you should try to have a view. You should try your best to aim for Buddhahood. Because Arahant, if you compare Arahant and also the Buddha, the difference is so much. So they say, if that's the case, you should try to make a vow become the Buddha. You get it or not? So that's why the teaching nowadays, in Malaysia is so, so different. If you compare with other school, especially in Theravada, this is the reason why. Because it deeply influences. Strong influence for the Mahayana Buddhism. Yeah, Mr. Leong, any question you ask first? Okay.
Yes, regarding his Arahant, I thought that Arahant has abandoned all the factors and no more karma that he can make.
Oh, yes. There's still Arahant, no more karma can be made. But in Mahayana Sutra, we mentioned that Arahant still got some vasana, still got some habits. So because the habits, just only the Buddha can totally eradicate. This is why for the Arahant, they should try to make vow become the Buddha. Okay? So this is the teaching in Mahayana. I just tell you what is stated there. But it's up to you to choose which one you want to follow. Okay? Mr. Leong, correct or not? So the whole Buddhism actually influences in Malaysia by Mahayana teaching, Theravada teaching, Tibetan Buddhism teaching. So we just tell you what's the source of the influences. That's all. Yeah, anything, Mr. Leong?
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, you are frozen, Mr. Leong. Okay. Okay, let me check. Yeah, okay. Okay, the book title, oh yeah, I show you already lah, 中节. You want to ask the book title? This book, right? This book, right? 中节. I show you already just now, So this is the history of Buddhism, I show you just now already the book already, So later on, I give you the link lah, Now just have a try first. So they say the Buddha has just one vehicle only, okay, and this is the supreme vehicle, Not all Mahayana Sutra follow this one vehicle perspective. See or not? Not all Mahayana Sutra follow this. Basically, nowadays, if you go to look for the thesis, so we got two. Number one is the three vehicle. They are all ultimate. Meaning to say, Arahant, Pacceka Buddha, they are ultimate also. So Dhamma Flower Sutra is the only system. Just Buddha is the ultimate only. Okay. So that is the differences. And besides this, let's take a look. Here we got an example. It's a follow the three vehicle. This is Ukra. Let me try to find out the Ukra Paricha. So let's have a look. Ukra Paricha, 中文 Ukra Paricha. Chinese cross-reference, Ukra Paricha, 绝多罗, okay. Ukra Paricha, this is not very common, but this is from this school. This school is from the Kashyapa school of Kashyapa. So never mind, this is not very common. Let me try, class, just write it down. This is from the school of let's see, Korean cross-reference. No, we don't go to the Korean. Okay, never mind. Okay. Then the second reference is this Astarika Prashita Paramita. I think this is quite famous, this sutra. Okay. Oh, 般若经典 Well, Asta Askarika Prashita Paramita is this one. 仙观庄严论 So for 中节, those understand Mandarin, you can just write it down. So actually this is more common in Tibetan Buddhism and more for the mind-only school. You can just write down. This is for the mind-only school. Asta Sahasrika Prashita Paramita. Even though this is in the Mahayana, you see, emphasize the importance of Bodhisattva, not falling back so as to seek the lesser goal of arahantship. So this is from Mahayana, and this is more common in Tibetan Buddhism and under the school of mind only. So this is also talk about how you should try look for the Buddhahood. So we go to the next paragraph. Sally, please, according to the standard, please.
According to the standards of arahantship preserved by schools such as Theravada, the charge that the arahant is proud and selfish is preserved. By definition, he or she is one who has finally destroyed the I am conceit, the root of all egoism and selfishness. He is also described as imbued with loving kindness and as compassionately teaching others. The Theravada still acknowledges that the long path of Buddhahood over many, many lives is the loftiest practice as it aims at the salvation of countless beings. Hence, the late 14th century Dasa Bodhisa Upatikata, or account of the arising of 10 bodhisattvas, talk in glowing terms of Maitreya and 9 following bodhisattvas. Nevertheless, while the bodhisattva path has been and is practiced by a few Theravadins, often lay people, it is seen as a way for the heroic few only. Most, though, have gratefully made use of Gautama Buddha's teachings so as to move towards arahantship, whether this be attained in the present life or a future one. The Mahayana, though, urge as many men and women as possible to join the heroic new treading the demanding Bodhisattva path. Even so, the stereotype of Mahayana as being more open to lay aspirations does not seem straightforwardly applicable to the early Mahayana. In the early Chinese translations of Mahayana texts, the lay bodhisattva is expected to live a life free of attachment to family and to aim to ordain as soon as possible. In much of this, he is akin to ideal devout lay disciple in the Pali Sutras. He might reach the advanced spiritual stage, but also might a lay person in the Theravada tradition say. Nevertheless, lay practitioners do play a prominent part in several important Mahayana sutras such as Vimalakiri Nidasa. The call to the Bodhisattva path was inspired by the vision that the huge universe will always be in need of perfect Buddhas. The person entering this path aspires to be compassionate, self-sacrificing hero. His path would be long, as he would need to build up moral and spiritual perfections, not only for his own exalted state of Buddhahood, but also as to be able to aid others altruistically by teaching good deeds, transference of karmic fruitfulness, and offering response to prayers. While compassion had always been an important part of the Buddhist path, it is now more strongly emphasized as the motivating factor for the whole Bodhisattva path.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
OK， 这里太清楚吗？
No, because they are go down some more.
OK，
I can't see, don't know what. Oh, okay.
OK。Okay, class, basically there are three of the Mahayana Sutra emphasized here. So we can try to have, look further for it. Okay. Basically, as I know, number one is the Dharma Flower Sutra. In Mahayana school, basically, Dharma Flower Sutra more for reading only or chanting only. But it is not common that people go to study, go through it, and notice that the whole Dharma Flower Sutra only emphasize one path only, Buddhahood. Seldom people will go through it this way like us, because I go through every words by words, so I will discover that there are a lot of Abhidhamma inside the Dharma Flower Sutra. Okay, then second, it's very common, the sutra is being mentioned during the Mahayana is regarding this. Chinese we call it as a 维摩诘经 This one, 维摩诘经 Okay, let's take a look. Vimala-kriti nidassa. 廣東話我哋叫做維摩經啦。Why 維摩？ Because of Vimala-kriti nidassa sutra. Vimala, Vima 喺後邊我哋 shortcut 咗，所以 Vima is the 維摩啦。Basically, he is the layman. A class in Mahayana, there's one very special condition that layman plays a very important role during the early stage of the Mahayana. So this is the Vimala, is the one. According to the sutra, I have gone through before, long times ago, he already understands emptiness very well. In Mahayana school, you can start to see the layman criticizing the Sangha. Especially the Sangha is very rigid in the teaching. So he started criticizing. You will see that the layman, start to teaching. And of course, according to Mahayana Sutra, it said that even though he's a layman, but he's past many life, actually he has attained the Bodhisattva already, very high level. So he's able, he tried to camouflage himself as a layman and start to admonish, especially those the Sangha is very orthodox. You try to admonish them. So this is a Vimala Kriti. We notice that it seems that it's a feature of the Mahayana. Besides this, class, can you try to recall? We got four major bodhisattvas. Can you tell me who is the layman? Okay, Mr. Leong, is Manjushri, is Tizang Wang Pusa a layman or a monk? Mr. Leong? You are frozen again. Okay, yes.
He's a Sangha.
A Sangha, because botak, right? Okay, how about Manjushri? Does Manjushri have hair or not? Yes.
Manjushri have hair.
Has hair. How about the Puxian Pusa? Got hair? Yeah, got hair, right? No, got hair, not botak. How about Guan Yin? Guan Yin got hair or not?
Oh, very long hair.
Got hair. So meaning to say that the four major bodhisattvas, 3 out of 4 are laymen. Do you notice that or not? They are the laymen actually. So some people, they try to interpret the sutra in the in the social manner and the culture manner. He said that this reflect during the early stage of Mahayana, layman has gained a very good position in preaching the Dharma. I think there's one of nowadays there's one country we can see this type of feature. You know which one country is it? Elena, the layman plays a very important role in preaching the Dharma, helping for the Dharma Sasana. Elena, you know which one country is it? Sally? Malaysia lah. You don't know this in Malaysia because so many layman organizations basically run and chaired by the layman. You don't know this that? Yes, it's Malaysia. Actually, Malaysia is very special if you compare with the Myanmar, Thailand, and Taiwan, because and Tibet, because mostly this type of country, they are the major runner is the monk. But Malaysia, no. Our monk is a very minority. So maybe in Malaysia also reflect the early stage of the Mahayana in Kandara, possible. And we also have a multi-racial and multi-religions too. Then next, let's take a look. Okay, see here. Then this is a Vimalakriti, and then one more is very common. We call it as a Dasa Bodhisattva Upatikata. Dasa Bodhisattva. If I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to be 十地经. Let's see first. Okay, I couldn't find this according to the Wikipedia. Wait, 中. Yeah, couldn't. Dasa Bodhisattva Upatikas. Bodhisattva. Yes, okay, Google still couldn't find. Let's see first. Anyway, so this is another sutra. English is account of the arising of the 10 bodhisattva. We got totally 10 bodhisattva. You see or not? So how do they arise? Okay, then so this we have gone through already regarding the Vimalakiti. Okay, and then let's take a look. It say in the bodhisattva path, it say we have a need of a perfect Buddha, and inspired by the compassionate and self-sacrificing hero. In order to become a Buddhahood, we need somebody really can self-sacrificing hero. This is we can see from the Shakyamuni, because Shakyamuni show a lot of self-sacrificing. Yes. Okay. Then next, let's take a look. And in order to become a Buddhahood, basically, compassion is so important. It's a motivating factor for a whole Bodhisattva path. Class, do you notice that in Malaysia, our society a little bit different? Can we say that all Theravada monk, Theravada community in Malaysia, they are all aim for arahantship? Can you say so? Yes or no? If you say yes, how about Sri Jayanti? You know this or not? A lot of Sri Lanka temple, they are more for what? Running the charity for orphanage home and orphan house. Am I right? It seems they do a lot of charity. Okay, so we can't say that all the Theravada in Malaysia community, they are all is considered the word arahantship. Not really. There are some, they are actually is a bodhisattva. And yet you see a lot of Malaysia Chinese Mahayana Buddhists even though the teaching at the background is so called as a bodhisattva, but we notice that some they just close the door and then keep on do the chanting like Amitabha and then aiming for liberation. It seems they are more like arahant more than the bodhisattva. See or not? So this is the feature in Malaysia. So let's take a look. So that's why he say but also to able to aid other altruistically by teaching good deed transference of karmic fruitfulness and offering response to the prayer. So this is what the bodhisattva try to do in the modern world. We also do all these types of things. And next paragraph. Yes, Kok Hong, can you please try to read? Never mind. From the screen.
Over the centuries, many monks studied and practiced according to both the Sarvakayana and Mahayana. Not infrequently, both were present in the same monastery. The Chinese, in fact, did not come to clearly differentiate the Mahayana as a separate movement until late in the 4th century. Moreover, in Eastern and Northern Buddhism, the term Hinayana came to be mostly used to refer to the lower level of spiritual motivation and to be mostly used to refer and practice which prepare for the Mahayana level. It is in any case a mistake to equate the Hinayana with the Theravada fraternity, both because the term is disparaging, one not accepted by Theravadin, and also because it was used to refer to any person who did not accept the Mahayana Sutra as authoritative. Such person could come from any of the ordination fraternity, while perhaps living with others who did accept this new sutra to some extent. Moreover, this fraternity also include a bodhisattva path, so it is incorrect to see them as purely Sarvakayana in nature. That said, those Theravadin who were resistant to accepting the new Mahayana Sutra in times become the dominant voice in their tradition. In talk of those Buddhists who did not accept the Mahayana Sutra, one is faced with the problem of finding a convenient label for them. The pejorative term Hinayana is inappropriate, and the term Theravada refers to only one of the traditions which originated prior to the rise of the Mahayana movement, and whose members were critical of the new text to some degree. Sarvakayana is a useful term, though one must remember that fraternities which were mainly Sarvakayana in orientations also contain some who took the bodhisattva path, either set within a doctrinal context that did not include ideas from the new sutra, or who used these texts and their idea. So fraternities which emphasize the Sarvakayana is better. Some use the term mainstream Buddhists to denote non-Mahayanis. But while the Mahayanis were not the mainstream in India, there were the mainstream in places such as Tibet, China, and Japan. One thing is clear, though, one cannot understand the Mahayana in isolation from what came before it. One also needs to understand Mahayana rhetoric and self-justification in its context, so as to be wary of overgeneralizations based on it, and beware of imposing their Western notions of religious differences or ideas of 12th century lay-oriented Japanese Buddhism onto earlier Indian Buddhism. The Bon Mahayana movement originated gradually, unlike the Protestant Reformations, and it was not lay-lit, as Japanese scholars have sometimes argued.
Thank you so much. Oh, okay, we finished already. Okay. Okay, class, basically now we go to is the terminology lah. Nowadays, the author try to explain that lah. Nowadays, for both Mahayana and also the Theravada, basically Mahayanism and Theravada they seldom stay together nowadays. But I think in Anghoksi we do lah. In Anghoksi, because my master is a Mahayanist monk, but he practiced from Mahasi. Okay, so meaning to say in his temple Anghoksi, we include, you will see a Theravada robe and also a Chinese Mahayana robe. We both stay together. So nowadays, I think it is common in Malaysia already. Okay, this is number one. Second is talk about the label. If let's say you aim for the Buddhahood, so we label you as a Mahayanist. Okay, but if let's say you don't aim to become a Mahayana, if we label you as a Theravada, maybe it's inappropriate according to the author. The reason why is Theravada actually is the terminology come from a very ancient Indian. Once Buddha Parinibbana, so the Buddhists split to the Theravada and also the Mahayana. So this is the words including a lot of school inside, a lot of fraternity inside. So the best way to describe maybe it's a Sravakayana according to the author. So meaning to say that if let's say you uphold Nikaya and the Abhidhamma and you aim to become Arahant, maybe we label you as a Sravakayana is more appropriate. So that is what the whole context means here. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, he say according over centuries, the practice both Sravakayana and Mahayana, meaning to say we practice both lah. I think this is very common nowadays. We do, actually nowadays the Sravakayana and Mahayana, the difference not much already. Like during my time study in the Buddhist institution, basically we study all the sutra and Abhidhamma together. So actually not like ancient times. You have to specify to become a Buddhahood or specify to become an Arahant. Then you choose the monastery to further the study. Nowadays different already. We study all, then we'll try to major in certain fraternity lah. Then secondly, let's take a look. He say, Hinayana come from the lower level of spiritual motivation practice, which appeared for the Mahayana level. So that's why we call it as a Hinayana. And then now we say, so we discussed all this already. Sravakayana is the useful term. Basically, if let's say they are not Mahayanis, we call them as the Sravakayana. Okay, anyway, in the real life, basically Mahayana, we don't see any Mahayanis in India already. Nowadays, it's a Tibetan, China, and Japan. They are all is a Mahayana. Then how about I think if now about one day you met a Theravada monk, you call them as from Theravada, it's good enough already. It seems they accept it they themselves as a Theravada, but they don't accept themselves as a Hinayana. But sometimes if they have been successfully been brainwashed, if you call them, they will call themselves as a Hinayana. I remember once I go to have a retreat in a Sri Lanka temple. Then there's one Theravada monk, he keep on mentioning he is from Hinayana. I think he doesn't realize that Hina means the humiliation. But he used the words so frequent, it seems he liked the word very much. Hinayana, Hina, inferiority. So I think nowadays people is very open-minded to accept any label. Then here you see the broad Mahayana movement origin gradually it was not lay-led, but basically this is controversy. From what I know, 1,000 years ago in Kandahar in Pakistan, Mahayana should be led by a group of laymen. Actually nowadays, class basically what people mention is once you talk about the Hinayana, the Mahayana, They say, how does the Mahayana start the movement? Well, they believe that there must be a group of people. They are not either laymen nor monk, okay? And they pray for the pagoda and they aim for the bodhisattva. So this is the group of the people. They start the Mahayana. Can you quote an example to me? Can you find an example who is neither a layman nor a monk? Any example you can quote to me? Neither layman nor a monk. Who is it? Elena, you have more example. Neither layman nor a monk.
Vimala Katsi.
No, in Malaysia nowadays.
Oh.
有冇揾到啊？出家又唔似出家，在家又唔似在家，一半一半咁樣。有冇 Mr. 梁？
we all 啦，lay people 啦。
邊個啊？
我哋啊。
你啊，唔係，你係 layman， 你都有 wife 嘛。而家我哋講嘅有班人係咪？又唔係 layman 喎，又唔係 monk 喎，一半一半喎。I think maybe do you think Brother Tan Ho Sut is somebody like that？ 係咪？係咪？He is not a monk, but he do a lot of dharma work. Yeah. So this is we call it as a neither monk nor layman. So we believe that they are the one who start the movement of the Mahayana in Pakistan, Afghanistan. We believe that Then I think this is Sally. You don't marry. Sally, if you start your own temple, and Elena, you also can become a neither monk, neither bhikkhuni, nor layman. So I think if a layman in Malaysia, they run the Buddhist temple, so they become the one like this. So meaning to say that they can have some feature of the layman which they open themselves to the society, and yet they can have a very good cultivation. Why? Because they possess both. For us, it is inconvenience for us to go off have a social life, not convenience. Because if let's say one day I go to I want to exercise, I go to play the ping pong, but people will start to skeptical that, oh, you come to my ping pong society, do you want to preach? They usually think in this way. They never think that I'm sincere in ping pong. They think maybe you come to preach. We don't want people to preach. Here is the ping pong association. Because I prefer play ping pong, see. So I think I go to exercise at the same time. Maybe I can just preach at the same time. But they are very frightening of me. So you see or not? So that's why the layman is more suitable to socialize, because no people is skeptical over you, your intention. Am I講? Okay. So this group of people is very good to have a Mahayana movement for the people. Yes.
One of your students, Tan Tuntak, the commandment guy.
Yes. He married.
Oh yeah, he's
no. He married. I think maybe Wong Chun Tat lah. Wong Chun Tat, he is still a bachelor. I think he is one. Neither layman nor monk. Okay. In China, we call it as a 非生非俗，即係乜都唔係咯。But it sounds like a humiliation 係咪咁又唔係，咁又唔係，有多少次係 humiliation Okay, let's continue So we finished this already. Okay, now is the Mahayana philosophy, the variety of the emptiness. Then wait let me before I further to this chapter, I want to check first because we go through this without according the syllabus what I remember. Let me check first. Okay, chapter 2, chapter number 3, chapter number 4, a rise of the Mahayana. Okay, let's take a look. If in the chapter 5, what are we going through? Let's see first. Is the variety of the Mahayana, meaning to say that we talk about the Madhyamika. This is we learned before in the way of the Buddhahood, the final chapter. Yogacara school and the Tathagata Gaba taught. These three we learn in the way of the Buddhahood. Remember or not, in the way of the Buddhahood, we mentioned that they got 3 different schools. They try to explain how the establishment of the karma And by knowing the establishment of the karma, you know how for the liberation. Do you remember or not? My dear Maka, empty only school, my only school, and the last one is we talk about there's a Buddha nature. Hey, can you please look at me? Don't look at the book. Please look at me. Do you still want to go through all this or not? Actually, we have done this in the way to the Buddhahood. Do you need? The point is whether you remember or not, or actually you don't remember the way to Buddhahood for these three major schools. Elena, you agree to learn, go through it. How about the rest? Shall we go through it again? Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, just a refresher.
A refresher. Okay, so we just go through it. So from here, we go through the way to Buddhahood. You need to say regards the Mahayana, the major three teaching. After this, we'll go to this avatar. You say Huayan school. This is more for the Chinese Buddhism. Not the Chinese Buddhism. Huayan means the Avatamsaka syllabus. And the last one is talk about the empty school. After this, we'll go through what is the Tantric Buddhism. Tantric Buddhism. I think even though Tantric Buddhism is, we don't really practice the Tantric Buddhism, but knowing them is also important. Because Tantric Buddhism basically, they are the major component. The arises is about, I think the 7th century is in Swat Valley. Basically, they are common in the Swat Valley. And then in Swat, they start, we believe there's a group of people, they are very sensitive. Their body is very sensitive. They learn the Buddhism. So since they can communicate with the God, they can communicate with the ghosts, so they start to using some mantra, and then they do some offering to the hungry ghosts, all this type of stuff. It began at that time. Then here, this type we call it as yoga. The tantric start to spreading to the China and also the Japan. We call it as Eastern tantric. And then in the 9th century, it started spreading to the Tibet. So we call it as a Tibetan tantric. Okay. So once we talk about the yoga sects, it's only involved is the Tibetan tantric only, but for Eastern tantric, they don't involve all these yoga sects. Okay, so all this we've gone through before Okay, since you want to go through, refresh again, so we begin here. Mahayana philosophy, variety of the emptiness. Yes, okay, whose turn I think Mr. Leung, you try to read. Your line is getting better now. The Mahayana kind.
The Mahayana kind of motivation of compassionately aspiring for perfect Buddhahood is typically set within a framework of Mahayana doctrine. One should not forget, however, that such motivation has also existed in a minority of those whose doctrinal framework has been that of one of the early schools such as the Theravada. There are also those whose doctrinal context is Mahayana, but who aim for worldly protection or a good rebirth, or their own liberation, so as to not yet have a motivation level that is Mahayana.
Mr. Leung, you can stop here. Okay, I think we should stop our class here. Why? Because Chinese New Year, we don't have any gathering. Maybe now we have another 15 minutes. Then just let us know each other how you've been gone through the whole Chinese